What happens when a CEO realizes the people he trusted to run his business might be the reason his company is falling apart? Jared Foster shifted nervously in the back seat of the Uber as it pulled up to the third garage on his list. He owned 8 garages across the state, a business he inherited from his father 5 years ago. At first, everything went well. The garages were busy, the staff was happy, customers kept coming. Lately, though, Jared had been getting complaints: long wait times, shoddy repairs, bad customer service. The district manager, Pete, always had an excuse. Staff shortages, supply chain issues, customers being too picky. Jared didn't buy it anymore. He decided to go undercover. No warning, no heads up. Just a regular guy looking for work. He grew out some facial hair, kept his baseball cap low, wore oil-stained jeans, and an old hoodie. He used a fake name, Joe. None of the garage employees had met him personally. Most had only seen the photo of his dad hanging in the break rooms. A few might have seen the occasional corporate email, but they wouldn't recognize him in person. Jared made sure of it. The garages were spread out, and this one garage 3 was supposed to be one of the busiest. Pete had told him it was running like a well-oiled machine. Jared stepped out of the car, took a deep breath, and walked toward the office. Inside, the manager, a tall man in his 40s with thinning hair and a gut that strained against his polo shirt, barely glanced up from his phone. "You the new guy?" he asked, voice bored. "Yeah, Joe," Jared said. The manager waved a hand. "Grab a shirt from that box. Start shadowing one of the techs. Don't screw anything up. No welcome. No paperwork. No safety briefing." Jared grabbed a wrinkled work shirt and changed in the tiny, grimy bathroom. As he stepped into the garage, the smell of burnt rubber and oil hit him hard. The place was packed. Cars lined up in every bay, customers pacing in the waiting area. Mechanics moved fast, sweating through their uniforms. A young woman with dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail caught his eye. She was fighting with a rusted bolt under the hood of a sedan. Her knuckles were scraped raw. Tools were scattered around her. "Hey," Jared said, walking up. "Mind if I help?" She looked up, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand. "You're the new guy? Joe, right?"
I'm Brooke Ortiz.
"Yeah, here, hold this light." As he studied the light, he noticed her tools were in terrible shape. Wrenches bent out of shape, sockets cracked, a ratchet held together with duct tape. "These tools, aren't they dangerous?" Jared asked quietly. Brooke gave a tired laugh.
Yeah.
"Tell that to management. I've put in requests for replacements for months. They just tell me to make it work." Jared watched her hands tremble slightly as she tightened a bolt with a cracked socket. If it slipped, it could slice her hand open. He felt anger boil inside him. His dad had built this company on taking care of workers. How had it gotten this bad? Before he could ask more, a loud voice barked across the garage. "Brooke, move your ass. That car's been here an hour." It was the manager from earlier. He stomped over, face red. "And you," he snapped at Jared. "Don't just stand there. Clean up that bay." Brooke muttered under her breath and got back to work. Jared bent down to pick up tools, biting his tongue. Over the next few hours, Jared saw more. Mechanics working without gloves because the supply closet was empty. A customer getting yelled at for asking for an update. A kid named Tyler, no more than 19, getting scolded for taking a water break. It wasn't just bad. It was broken. And it wasn't because of staff shortages. There were enough workers. They were just beat down, under-equipped, and badly managed. By the end of the day, Jared's back ached from scrubbing oil off the floor. His hands were black with grime. In the break room, he sat across from Brooke as she wolfed down a sandwich. "You like working here?" he asked carefully. Brooke shrugged. "I like fixing cars. Hate everything else.
But
I need the paycheck. Saving up for tech school." Jared nodded, feeling a tight knot in his chest. He leaned back against the wall, staring at the cracked ceiling tile above him. He didn't just feel anger. He felt guilt. He had trusted the wrong people. He had let this happen. Tomorrow, he promised himself, he would dig even deeper. He wasn't leaving until he knew exactly who was hurting his company and who was keeping it alive. The next morning, Jared showed up early, the sky still a soft purple. A thin mist clung to the cracked asphalt outside the garage. He leaned against the building, sipping burnt coffee from a styrofoam cup he grabbed at a gas station down the street. The garage door creaked open a few minutes later, and Brooke limped inside, a noticeable hitch in her step. "You all right?" Jared asked, tossing the cup into a dented trash can. "Rolled my ankle yesterday," Brooke muttered, dropping her backpack onto a splintered bench. "No time to ice it. Gotta keep moving." Jared didn't press. He followed her inside, the fluorescent lights flickering on sluggishly overhead. As he clocked in on the ancient punch machine, Pete's voice boomed from the office. "Joe, get your ass over here." Jared made his way to the office, heart thudding. Pete leaned against the desk, arms crossed. He wore a gold chain over his shirt today, and the smell of heavy cologne filled the cramped space. "Listen up," Pete said, voice low. "We got inspections coming next week. You see anything wrong, you keep your mouth shut. You hear me?" "Sure," Jared said, measuring each word. Pete jabbed a finger in his chest. "You're lucky to have a job here. Don't mess it up." Jared nodded once and left without another word. His jaw clenched, so tight it hurt. Out in the garage, the day picked up fast. Brooke was already under a lifted truck, ratchet in hand. Tyler wiped down the bay next to her, eyes sunken from lack of sleep. Another tech, a stocky guy named Vince, leaned against a tool cabinet scrolling through his phone while a customer waited at the front counter, tapping impatiently. "Hey Vince," Jared said. "Customers waiting." Vince didn't even look up. "Ain't my problem. Front desk's job." The receptionist, a thin woman with heavy eyeliner and a nervous twitch, wasn't in sight. Jared hesitated, then wiped his hands on his pants and approached the counter. "Hey," Jared said to the man waiting. "Someone will be with you in a second. What do you need?" "My wife's car was supposed to be ready yesterday," the man said sharply. "Nobody's answering the phone. I drove 40 minutes to get here." "I'll find out for you." Jared ducked back into the garage. He spotted Brooke tightening a belt under the hood. "Hey, you know anything about a Ford Escape waiting on a belt replacement?" Brooke wiped her hands on a rag. "Yeah, that's done. Vince was supposed to call the customer yesterday." Jared's stomach twisted. He marched back to Vince. "That Ford Escape's finished. Why didn't you call the customer?"
Vince shrugged.
"Wasn't my shift." Jared stared at him, disbelief knotting in his chest. Vince tucked his phone into his pocket and sauntered off toward the vending machine. By noon, the garage was a mess. Oil spills went unmopped. Customers waited for hours without updates. Vince disappeared into the back for long stretches. Tyler dropped a brake caliper because his hands were shaking from hunger. He hadn't had time for breakfast or lunch. Brooke pushed through it all, her limp worsening, refusing to sit down even once. Jared caught her leaning against the wall near the stockroom, breathing hard. "You need to take a break," he said. "I can't," Brooke rasped. "If I fall behind, they dock my hours." Jared's hands curled into fists at his sides. The final straw came mid-afternoon. A woman in her 60s brought in her battered minivan for a tire rotation. She waited quietly for over 2 hours. When she finally approached Pete, who stood near the office pretending to check paperwork, she asked if someone could at least look at her car. Pete glanced at her, rolled his eyes, and said loudly enough for half the garage to hear, "Maybe if you didn't drive that piece of junk, you wouldn't need so much work done." The woman's face crumpled. She turned and walked quickly toward the exit, head down. Jared felt the blood drain from his face. He stepped forward, voice steady but low. "Hey, that's not how you talk to customers." Pete turned slowly. His smile was ugly. You got a problem, Joe? Yeah, Jared said, pulling the dirty work shirt over his head and tossing it onto the floor. I do. The entire garage froze. Tools dropped. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. I'm Jared Foster, he said, voice echoing off the concrete walls. I own this company. Brooks' wrench clattered to the ground. Tyler gaped. Vince dropped his candy bar. Pete's face went pale, then dark with rage. You're full of it. Jared pulled his wallet from his back pocket and flipped it open to his ID. He held it up for everyone to see. I built this company with my dad. I trusted people to run it right. And what I see here, Jared said, sweeping his arm around the grimy, broken garage, is not what we stand for. Pete opened his mouth, but Jared cut him off. You're done. Pack your things. You're fired. Effective immediately. Pete's face twisted, but he said nothing. He stomped back into the office, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Jared turned to Vince. You too. Get out. This isn't a place for people who don't respect the customers or the team. Vince's jaw dropped, but he didn't argue. He snatched his jacket from the hook and stormed out without a word. The garage felt hollow and still. The workers stared at Jared, wide-eyed, uncertain. You all deserve better, Jared said, softer now. And starting today, you're going to get it. He looked at Brooke. Her hands were trembling, not from fear, but from exhaustion. You, he said, pointing to her, are taking the rest of the day off. Paid. Brooke's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Tyler, Jared said, turning to the young man, go grab some lunch. On the company. Take your time. Tyler's eyes filled with tears he quickly wiped away with the sleeve of his coverall. I'm bringing in a temporary manager tomorrow, Jared said. Someone I trust. Until then, we're closing early today. Everyone gets paid for a full shift. A murmur rose among the workers. Relief, disbelief, hope. Jared stepped outside into the fading sunlight. He pulled out his phone and dialed his assistant. Call HR, he said. We need a full review at every location. And find me a new regional manager. He looked back at the garage. Brooke was helping Tyler gather tools, both moving slowly but with a new sense of purpose. Jared knew this wasn't over. Fixing this would take time, work, and a lot of hard conversations. But for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was back where he belonged. The next morning, Jared arrived before sunrise, parking his battered rental truck across the street. The garage sat in silence, the neon sign flickering weakly against the heavy gray sky. A cold drizzle had started, painting the cracked pavement darker. Jared pulled his hood up and watched as a white sedan pulled into the lot. A woman stepped out, balancing a box against her hip. She wore pressed slacks, a dark blazer, and a no-nonsense expression. Her name was Angela Ruiz, a veteran operations manager Jared trusted implicitly from a previous turnaround project. She had agreed to step in temporarily and rebuild the place from the ground up. As they approached the garage together, Jared kept his voice low. First thing, he said, we need to figure out who's really committed to being here. Angela nodded without looking at him. I'll start with one-on-ones. No group meetings. People lie less when they're alone. Inside, the garage smelled of damp concrete and burnt oil. Brooke was already there, kneeling by a tire balancer, hands moving carefully despite the swelling around her ankle. Tyler stood near the lifts, stacking tires with slow, deliberate movements. Two other techs, Marcus and Dee, leaned against the far wall, whispering. Jared caught Marcus glancing up, eyes narrowing slightly. Brooke noticed them first and straightened, wiping her hands on a clean rag. You're back, she said, voice rough from sleep. I said things were going to change, Jared replied, stepping closer. This is Angela. She's helping sort things out. We're starting fresh. Brooke studied Angela for a moment, then gave a sharp nod and returned to her work without a word. Angela set the box down on the office desk and pulled out a thick stack of forms, a battered laptop, and several clipboards. She turned to the gathered techs. "One at a time," she said crisply. "Starting now. Marcus, you first." Marcus pushed off the wall slowly, tossing a glance at Dee. He walked into the office, shoulders stiff. Jared stayed outside, his focus on the garage floor. He noticed immediately how much quieter everything was without Pete's shouting or Vince's loafing. Still, the tension was thick like a wire pulled too tight. Brooks struggled to lift a heavy rim onto the balancing machine. Jared stepped forward without hesitation. "Let me help," he said. She hesitated, then moved aside. Together, they hoisted the rim into place. Jared caught the way she winced as she shifted her weight. "You really should be off that ankle," he said lowly. "I'll live," Brooke muttered, setting the machine to spin. "Besides, you're short-staffed." Jared didn't argue. She was right. Firing Pete and Vince had left a hole, and the remaining techs were stretched thin. He made a mental note to ask Angela to start recruiting immediately. An hour passed with steady, grinding work. Angela rotated through the techs, calling each one into the office individually. When Tyler emerged, his face was pale but set with determination. Angela approached Jared, tugging her blazer sleeve back into place. "Marcus is lazy and rude. Dee's even worse." They admitted to cutting corners because no one cared. Tyler's solid but green. "Brooks, your backbone." Jared nodded slowly, processing the information. "They stay, the others go," Angela said firmly. "We can't build on rot." Without hesitation, Jared walked over to Marcus and Dee, who were half-heartedly sorting parts near the back. "I need a word," Jared said, voice even. Marcus straightened, trying for bravado. "What now?" "You're both done here," Jared said. "Grab your things. Leave immediately." Dee laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Figures. New boss, same crap. You're leaving because you disrespected this company's standards, not because someone's out to get you," Jared said calmly. "You made your choices." Neither argued further. They gathered their belongings with sullen faces and slunk out into the rain. Jared turned back to the remaining team. Only Brooke and Tyler remained on the floor, both visibly tense. "I know things have been rough," Jared said, pitching his voice so it carried clearly. "And I know trust has to be earned back. But you're not alone anymore. We're going to fix this the right way." Brooke exchanged a glance with Tyler, then gave a short nod. Angela motioned Jared over to the office. "We need to close for a few days," she said quietly. "Deep cleaning, equipment repairs, safety inspections, and we need to restock essential supplies." Jared hesitated. Closing meant lost revenue, but keeping the garage open in its current state would be worse. "Do it," he said. "Full overhaul." Angela's eyes sharpened. "And the tools? Every request they ever made, we fill it," Jared said grimly. "No more duct-taped ratchets." The decision made, Jared stepped back out to the garage. "We're closing for 3 days," he announced. "Pay time off for both of you. When you come back, this place will look different." Brooke's shoulders sagged, the weight of months lifting slightly. Tyler blinked, stunned. "You're serious?" Tyler asked, voice cracking. "Dead serious," Jared said. Angela handed each of them a packet. "Fill these out before you leave. Contact info, tool requests, safety concerns. Be honest." As Brooke and Tyler filled out the forms, Jared walked the floor. He made a list in his head. Cracked lifts, frayed hoses, broken floor jacks. It wasn't just management that had failed, the very bones of the place were crumbling. Angela joined him, her heels clicking softly on the concrete. "We'll need contractors for the big repairs," she said. "And a new service advisor. Someone who can actually manage the front."
"I'll get on it," Jared said.
Outside, the rain had thickened into a steady sheet. Jared watched as Brooke and Tyler clocked out, their faces exhausted but lighter somehow. When the garage was finally empty, Jared grabbed a mop and started on the floor himself. Angela pulled a clipboard from her bag and began cataloging the tool inventory. Neither of them spoke much. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was the sound of work beginning, real work, not the frantic, desperate kind that had filled the garage before. As Jared scrubbed a particularly stubborn oil stain, he thought about his father, about the early days when every customer was treated like family and every employee knew they were valued. He had lost sight of that somewhere along the way, trusted the wrong people, looked at spreadsheets instead of faces.
But he was here now.
And he wasn't leaving until the place reflected the values it had been built on. Angela called out from across the room. Found a stash of unopened filters shoved behind the compressor. Jared wiped his forehead with his sleeve. Figures, he muttered. Let's log everything. Nothing gets wasted. They worked late into the night, the rain drumming steadily against the roof. By the time Jared finally locked up, the garage still looked rough. But it was clean. And it was empty of the rot that had poisoned it for too long. Tomorrow, supplies would arrive. Contractors would start repairs. New hires would be interviewed. It wasn't fixed yet. Not by a long shot. But it was finally moving in the right direction. 3 days later, the garage hardly resembled the place Jared had first walked into. The walls were freshly painted a crisp white, the floors scrubbed and sealed, and every tool station neatly organized with brand new equipment. A scent of industrial cleaners still hung faintly in the air, but it was a welcome change from the old stench of oil and sweat. New safety signs lined the walls, clear and bold. Even the front office had been overhauled, the cracked counter replaced, the waiting area furnished with clean chairs and a coffee station. Jared stood near the bay doors with Angela, both watching as a delivery van backed into the lot, unloading the last shipment of parts they needed to officially reopen. Brooke and Tyler arrived early, as promised, both wearing crisp new uniforms Jared had ordered for the team. Brooke adjusted the strap of her tool belt, still walking with a slight limp, but her face was brighter, more focused. Tyler looked better rested, a subtle confidence in his step that hadn't been there before. Jared called them over. "This is your garage as much as mine now," he said. "If you see something wrong, you speak up. No more looking the other way." Brooke nodded. "Will you be around? Or just checking in?" "I'm not disappearing again," Jared said. "I'll be visiting every site personally, starting with here."
No me lemen.
Tyler glanced toward the new lifts gleaming under the ceiling lights. "Feels like a real shop now," he said. "It is," Jared said. "And it stays that way." Angela handed each of them a laminated checklist. "Daily inspections," she explained. "We catch problems early. We fix them early." As the morning unfolded, customers started arriving in a slow but steady trickle. Jared stayed in the background, watching the team handle the flow carefully. Brooke immediately took charge of the floor, assigning jobs based on skill level. Tyler managed the intake forms with surprising efficiency, double-checking everything before a car moved into a bay. Jared stepped outside to take a call from the new regional manager he had hired, a sharp, experienced professional named Nolan Price. Nolan confirmed he would be visiting every garage personally over the next month and holding private interviews with each employee. As Jared ended the call, he spotted an older man walking hesitantly toward the entrance. His jacket was soaked through, and he clutched a set of keys in one hand. Jared opened the door for him.
"Come on in," he said.
The man gave a grateful nod and shuffled inside. Brooke quickly approached him at the counter. "Good morning," she said warmly. "How can we help today?" "My truck's making a weird noise when I turn," the man said, voice hoarse from the cold. Brooke took down all the details carefully, never rushing him, never showing a hint of impatience. Jared watched from a distance, feeling a weight lift from his chest. This was how it should have always been. Even with the improvements, the day wasn't without challenges. A stubborn rusted bolt on a customer's sedan held up a repair longer than expected. Brooke calmly explained the delay to the customer, offering a loaner vehicle free of charge. Tyler accidentally double-booked a service slot, but instead of panicking, he flagged it immediately and Brooke adjusted the schedule without chaos. By late afternoon, the garage had cleared out most of the day's appointments. Jared gathered the team in the break room, now cleaned and stocked with fresh supplies. "You handled a day like pros," Jared said. "But this is just the beginning." Brooke leaned against a table, arms crossed but relaxed. "What's next?" she asked. "Next is building a team around you," Jared said. "We're hiring 2 more techs and a full-time service advisor. Until then, we'll stay lean. Focus on quality, not volume." Tyler tapped his fingers nervously against his knee. "And what about the other garages?" he asked. "They're getting the same treatment," Jared said. "No exceptions." Angela stepped forward, setting a binder on the table. "This is the new employee manual," she said. "It spells out everything: expectations, rights, and procedures. You'll get a full orientation next week." Brooke flipped the binder open, scanning a page. "Paid sick leave," she said, surprise flickering across her face. "Real sick leave," Jared said. "You get hurt or sick, you stay home and heal. No punishments." Tyler stared at him, disbelief plain. "And tool allowances?" he asked. "Every year," Jared confirmed. "You'll never have to patch broken tools again." They sat in silence for a moment, the reality settling in. Brooke closed the binder with a soft thud. "Feels like a real company now," she said. "It is," Jared said. He wasn't just patching holes anymore. He was rebuilding from the foundation up. Later that evening, after the garage had closed for the day, Jared stayed behind with Angela to review the first official feedback forms from customers. Every single one praised the service, the cleanliness, and the professionalism. Several even mentioned Brooke by name. Angela tapped a pen against a form. "You've got a leader in her," she said. "I know," Jared said. He stepped outside into the cool night air, hands stuffed into his jacket pockets. The neon sign buzzed quietly overhead, clean and bright now. Across the street, the lights of a diner flickered on, casting long shadows across the pavement. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. The betrayal, the decay, the hard truths he had forced himself to face. None of it had been easy. None of it ever would be. But he had remembered something crucial along the way. A company wasn't a logo or a balance sheet.
It was people. It was trust.
And if you didn't protect that trust, if you let it rot, you lost everything. Brooke stepped out beside him, rubbing her hands together against the chill. "You're not going to vanish on us, right?" she asked. Jared shook his head. "Not a chance." She smiled slightly, the first real smile he had seen from her. "Good," she said, "because we're just getting started." Jared looked back at the garage, the bright lights spilling out onto the lot. "Yeah," he said quietly. "We are."